Got it?
Yeah.
Oh, we're coming right along here.
What's that?
I said we're coming right along here.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Put this fascia on so we can put our drip edge up. We can put the slate on. The scaffolding's awfully wobbly. 3 stories up. Or three tiers or sections, frames, whatever you want to call it. Well, there's been no strength in this board. It'll be alright for trim though.
Yeah. But it's going to have to be at least 2 inches longer.
Should be shorter. That should be the same.
No. No, because this gets 2 inches padded here.
Yeah, you're right.
Make it, last time we did it 2 inches and it came up a little bit short. So
there was like a chipmunk or something. Mouse.
What do you want?
12.
12.
Yeah, I got 2 left, huh?
I only got one.
One more.
It's a 9 and a 12. But the 12 is going to have to be trimmed. So it's going to be like a 9, maybe an 11.
And what?
Maybe an 11.
So what is, I'll go trim that one. What does that got to be?
11 and a half.
Alright.
Close.
This will be quite the video.
So I gotta go get 12s anyway.
Hey folks, well, I just come down off the roof of our cabin. Today's a big day. I'm going to be finishing up the majority of the slating on this roof. It's brutal up there. I was just up there. I came down to take a little break. It's about 85, somewhere in there today. But up there on the roof, with the sun reflecting off the flashing and radiating back off the slate, you feel it. It's real hot. Sweat just pours right off me like you're wringing out a sponge. So I came down here to get cooled off, get a little bit to drink, and I'm going to be going back up. And in this video I'll be showing you the procedure that you need to go through to install a slate roof if you're interested in finding out how that's done. Here in Vermont we have a lot of slate roofs, and unfortunately a lot of people are tearing them off and putting on asphalt shingles. It's really sad to see that. I can understand why they're doing it though. Slate roofs are expensive to install. Probably one of the most expensive roofs you can put on. But the trade-off of that is it's also one of the most durable. The majority of slate roofs in my area are well over 100 years old, and people are starting to complain about them because the slates are falling off, and so they're blaming the slate roofs. But the truth is most of those roofs were put on with hand-cut iron nails, and 100, 150 years later those nails have rusted to the point where they fail and the slates fall off. A slate roof is something that I have always wanted to do. I always wanted to learn how to do it, and this is the first slate roof I've ever done. My experience with roofing, coupled with a really good book that I'll leave a link in the description. I'll probably show it here in a little bit. It's called The Slate Roofer's Bible by Joseph Jenkins. Excellent book if you're wanting to learn how to do this. I highly recommend it. Just about everything you'd want to know is in there on how to install a slate roof. So I'll take you up and I'll show you how to do it. Oh folks, I can't really get back far enough to get more of this in view, but this is what we start with. Now, if you've ever done roofing, you know this is pretty typical of just about any roof, especially shingles, asphalt shingles. I have the felt paper here with the green nails to hold it down in the wind. I also put some cleats on here because I knew it was going to be a while before I got back to this. Now, I started this roof, I would say, mid to late October of 22, and today is Labor Day of 23. So I've been working on this roof for almost a year. Of course, that's only part-time. I come out here after work and on the weekends when it's not raining. Unfortunately, this year we've had a ton of rain, and we've really been dodging the raindrops trying to get anything done out here. The only difference on this roof from a typical, say, asphalt shingles is underneath this felt paper is a roof deck that's made with 1-inch rough cut pine boards. That's highly recommended for slate because it nails a lot easier than plywood. It doesn't bounce around as much. You're not going to hit that nail as hard, and you're less chance of breaking slate. And if you ever have to replace slate, you've got to get up underneath it with a special hook tool, and the nails come out an awful lot easier on a pine board than they do on plywood. You do not want to use any type of ice and water shield stick-on membrane for under slate. That's a big mistake simply because it makes maintenance almost impossible. It really makes it hard to get in there, pull the nails, and replace the slate. Also, I have a few options here that you're looking at. First off, the felt paper is not necessary under slate. That's optional. I used it simply because I knew it was going to be a while before I got this roof covered, and I wanted to keep my structure as watertight as possible. Also, the drip edge, the brown metal you see along the edges here, that drip edge is also not necessary. I use it simply because I think it gives a nice finished look from the ground level, and I like the looks of it. But for slate, it's definitely not necessary. One thing that's a little different from a traditional shingle roof is, you can see this cleat board I put along here. You want to put that on there, and that should be the same thickness as the average thickness of your slates. That'll help keep them laying a little flatter. I'll also do the same thing up on the ridge when I get there. So for now, I'll take you up to the peak here, and I can show you the back side of this roof, is what's actually been completed over there. Well, this is the back side as best I can show you. Now you can see that the slates vary in color, and it's highly recommended that you mix them up so you don't get big splotches of color. I think mine came out pretty well. The reason really for that, it really wasn't anything I did, but what I'm doing on this roof is I'm using different widths of slate. They're not all the same width. I've got 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, and 12s. And we just kind of mix those in as best we can, get them to fit. There's a certain rule you have to follow, and I'll explain that when I show you how to install this. But just that procedure in and of itself made it so that the color variations got spread out pretty good. When you're installing a slate roof, or even if you're doing maintenance on a slate roof, the last thing you want to do is walk on it. Although slate is a very durable roofing material, it's kind of fragile as far as walking on it. If you walk on it, you will break slates. So we have to use these walk boards. Now this also makes it a lot easier to actually be up on the roof. But it's also very important to have those so you don't step on the slates. And it's impossible to never step on a slate, but I've had to replace a few already because I broke them from stepping on them. So the walk boards really help a lot. You'll also notice that all of my flashing, my valleys flashing, my ridge caps, also my step flashing is all copper. And that's also highly recommended with a slate roof, simply because you got a roof you're putting on that's the life expectancy is 100 to 150 years. So you don't want to use a flashing it's only a 20-30 year flashing. So you want a flashing that's going to at least survive, hopefully, as long as the slate roof will. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I can't get back far enough to get this all in view because I run out of roof. But the first thing I have to do is I'm going to take off all of these orange cap nails and these cleats, and I'll get this all cleaned up, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, everybody, I've got this stripped down. I got all my nails and all my cleats out of there. Now I've got to snap some lines. I need to snap lines right along the drip edge here under the eaves, for my starter slates. Okay, we've got chalk lines snapped. I don't know if you can see them. I've got one along the eaves here, and I have two going up the dormer's gable. I'll get closer. The two going up the gable here are for the two different sizes I'll be starting with, and that allows a 1-inch overhang because I want the slate to hang over the drip by 1 inch. And same here where the starters are going to be. I've marked that to give myself a 1-inch overhang. This is what I'll be using for starter slates. This is an 8-inch wide by 14 inch long. And if you'll notice, it's got 2 holes in the top. For starter slates, you shouldn't have any holes. That was my mistake. When I ordered my slate, I didn't order any starters. So I have to punch my own holes. And I'll have my trusty assistant hold the camera and I'll show you how I punch some holes. This is a special slate hammer. This pointy end's for poking holes. Now I did that because you'll notice on this side we got a countersink. You want your nail head to go into the countersink so that it doesn't rub on the next slate. Hopefully it won't make a hole in your slate in 100 years. Here I've installed that slate I just poked the holes in. You can see how that countersink works on those nails, so they're just below the surface. And I still have the 2 original holes, one at the top and one out here at the bottom. Not ideal. It would be better if the one at the bottom wasn't there. It is a potential leak, but it gets covered by another slate, so it's not, you know, not a major problem. And of course the one on the top also gets covered, so it works. What I'm going to do now is I'll just continue that process all the way across here until I get to the valley. Here we have the first row of starter slates installed. Actually the only row. The next step will be to start the first course. And I don't think I mentioned this, but these starter slates are actually installed upside down. I'll show you here. This is a slate, right side up. The Corey pokes these holes with the countersink up. You'll also notice the edge has a rough appearance here. If you turn this over on the back side, there's no countersink on your holes, and also the edge is not as rough. So that's the back side. You'll notice that we install the starter course upside down, and that's also why I have to poke an additional hole, because I want that countersink to be on the back side now. Here we have the first course started. Now you'll notice this one is right side up. Being that the one underneath it is upside down and this one is right side up, that creates kind of like a knife edge right there at the drip edge, and that helps water drip off the roof rather than running back onto the fascia. What I will be doing now is running my first course all across here. There's a rule that you have to follow when you're laying these down. It's always best, of course, if your next slate falls right in the middle of the one underneath it. But that doesn't always happen. So a rule of thumb is you can be no closer than 3 inches to either edge. So I got to work our way across here, and I have to keep that in mind, and that determines the width of each slate. Since I'm running variable width slates, it usually means it takes a little bit of time to stop and figure that out. There's the second one on there, and you can see I've got a butt right here with the ones underneath. Right there. Remember, I can only come to within 3 inches of this either here or here. So I just take the tape measure, and we're about 8. So I can go with a 12. So I will use a 12-inch slate, and that's probably going to run true all the way across here. And then we'll do the cut going up the valley. Alright, first course just about done. I wasn't able to use 12s all the way across. I did have to sneak a 7 in there in order to follow my 3-inch rule. As I come over here, going up the valley, I'm going to have to cut a 12, and I have that all marked, and we'll go and cut that out. And there we have it installed. Now what I have to do now is I have to snap some lines going up to keep my rows straight, and I have to start the second row following, of course, the 3-inch rule, and it's about all there is to it all the way up. It doesn't really change much, pretty much more of the same. I'll do a little and I'll report back on the progress, and I'll also throw in a few tips on what to watch out for and what to do as we go. Okay folks, there's one thing that's very important when you're choosing your slate. You only want to use slates that are structurally sound. And a way to test that is to tap on them. You want to hear a nice ring, not a dull thud. That's a good slate. This one here, that's not a good slate. Somewhere there's a crack, and if you inspect them, you'll find them. This one has a crack right in here. Sometimes you can peel it off and it'll be okay. Sometimes you just can't save it. A lot of times when you're up here on a hot roof, you don't care. If it doesn't sound good, just get rid of it and go to the next one. Well folks, we've got 4 rows high so far. This is how it looks. As I just keep working my way up the valley. And it's pretty much the same procedure over and over as we work our way up, staggering our slates and making sure we follow our 3-inch rule. Now this roof here happens to be an 8 and 12 pitch, and that means that for every foot of length it raises 8 inches. And there's a thing called headlap on your slate. The steeper the pitch, the less headlap you need. And this particular roof, I can use a 3-inch headlap, but we decided to go with a 4-inch headlap. And I'll take you down and I'll show you what I mean by that. Now as you can see here, I've got these different layers. My headlap is how much this slate overlaps this slate, and you can see it here on the middle slate underneath it.
There. Give me that camera, I'll give him a better angle while you're talking. Right there. Go ahead, tell him again.
So your headlap is determined by how much overlap we have. If we use this particular slate as an example, how much it overlaps the third one,
Yeah.
which would be right here. In this case, we've got 4 inches.
Yeah, from this one to this one. How much those two. So it's actually like 3 slates.
Yep.
First slate, the one in the middle, the one on the top. And this top one, the bottom of the top one, to the top of the bottom one is the headlap. And that's the same for all the way up. Keep going. So this camera fell off the roof, and sometimes the screen works, sometimes it doesn't. Right now it doesn't work. I have no idea what I'm pointing at. Now what do you call that board? Does that have a special name?
It's just a cleat board.
It's hot today. High 80s. Alright, we are ready for our last row.
Well folks, we got this done. Now we got to put in our ridge cap. I'll show you how I do that. I don't know if you can see it, but that one over there, I put them on with no exposed fasteners. Not all that difficult, and I'll show you how I do it. Maybe, if you can see it. I don't know if this camera's working or not. Well folks, here you can see I've laid this piece of flashing down here. I've got about a 4-foot section. And I've got one tab there that's folded down. See that one there? It's folded up and over. Right at the end of that cap there, that gives me about a 6-inch overlap, which is about what you want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a pencil and draw a line on the slates right where this ridge cap falls. And then I will remove it and I'll put my tabs down. Okay, I've got my tabs in, as you can see here. Now I like to leave about an inch longer than where the edge of the ridge cap falls, so I've got about an inch to fold over. Left a little more on these other ones, but it's not really critical. Now what I'll do is I'll just lay this over here. I will bend them around and I'll just tap them down tight with the hammer. Oh, there we are folks. Got that all on. Took 2 pieces. Well, you saw how those tabs work. Pretty simple. Now that's the last dormer down. All I got left to do now is finish up the main ridge here. And we'll be done with the roof as far as keeping this place dry.